This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Sure, I get it. Weather talk in Las Vegas gets mundane. We likely have as many words for the heat as indigenous people of Alaska have for the snow. But I gotta say, when we get that first break like we did this week, gotta celebrate. And while we taste those first gentle breezes of fall, we're ready to calmly reflect upon this week's news. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm joined by my co-host Sarah Lohman and our esteemed executive producer Sonia Cho Swanson, and we're talking about the rash of lithium battery fires shutting down our highways, local journalists done good with a probing Donald Trump interview, and why a list of the best coffee cities in the United States straight up snubbed our city. It's Friday, September 20th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Sarah and Sonia, welcome to the Friday News Roundup.
Good morning.
It's
Good morning.
Gorgeous. The weather is gorgeous. I feel alive. It's amazing.
And Sarah, your hair is gorgeous. Sarah has purple hair today.
Thank you. So this is not a visual medium, Sonia, but I do have, as Sonia pointed out earlier, the exact same color hair as Leela from Futurama. So picture it.
Okay, now I can't unpicture it. Thank you.
Neither could I. I don't know if it's ruined or like elevated.
Oh, it's even better.
Even better. Perfect.
All right, before we get into the news, let's do our hot headline, and I want to do this one quiz style. All right, so a very, very famous internet personality got into some legal trouble in Las Vegas this week, and there's actually multiple to choose from, so this should be a decent quiz. The allegations here are that this person, quote, subjected people to unsafe conditions in an environment of misogyny and sexism and weren't paid for their efforts.
I do know the answer. I'm super excited because I don't know the answer for a good reason. I just I saw the headline and thought, well, with a name like that, I'm 0% surprised. The answer is Mr. Beast.
That is correct.
I have no idea who Mr. Beast is, y'all.
Absolutely not. But when I was like, oh, his name is Mr. Beast, and shocker, there's allegations of abuse.
Well, let me just tell you this, because arguably the most famous YouTuber with the most followers, Mr. Beast.
That's the weird thing about YouTube.
Wait, what is he famous for?
He's particularly famous for going around different cities and handing out huge sums of money to people who are apparently experiencing homelessness.
Oh, God, one of those.
So Netflix made a show about this.
This was something called Beast Games, which was going to be a Netflix show.
Yeah.
And they were going to give $5 million out. They had 2,000 contestants. This was filmed at Allegiant Stadium in July. But right from the start, there were problems that were leaking out through other social media that people were not being fed, that the conditions were really horrific. And in the lawsuit itself, like the allegations are a little ambiguous because they're all under confidentiality agreements. So, yeah, he's got some troubles.
I'm getting major Hunger Games vibes from this whole event.
Oh, yeah. No, that was definitely the vibe that was coming out. But again, he's best known for helping out people in need.
Helping out, air quotes.
No, like literally just handing over briefcases of cash.
But they have to do stuff for it, right?
Not always. That's the thing. Sometimes it's just like, are you following me? Sometimes it's just like, wow, you look really down and out. Can you, whatever, and then they give money. Anyway.
Clearly for his own benefit. I mean, this is not
There's been some really interesting NPR level profiles of Mr. Beast, and they mostly make him come out sounding pretty good. But I guess this lawsuit might tarnish that reputation.
I got questions for you, Mr. Beast.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, maybe on another episode. But let's get into our news of the week. Wow. The visuals, again, stunning. Another truck carrying lithium batteries crashes and catches fire. Sarah, what's going on here?
Yeah, so this is the third such incident in 3 months. On Tuesday in the very early a.m., 2 trucks crashed. One of them was carrying lithium batteries. The other was carrying wood. So, probably the worst collision one can think of.
And another truck with chocolate and another truck with marshmallows.
Stop it. We're only joking because no one got hurt. I should say that.
Yes.
Both drivers were injured, but they're doing just fine. Everyone's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest issue with all 3 of these incidents, there was one in July, I think everyone remembers, on I-15 near Baker that stranded people for 40 hours. There was another one in Northern California, also on 15, that closed highways in both directions for 15 hours. They are shutting down highways in a part of the country where we don't have a lot of highways. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but when you have to direct someone around a fire this big, it's a major detour, right? If you get to move at all, because that's the people in Baker, they were hanging out in Baker that night. And sorry, Baker, not everyone wants to hang out in you.
Although we had a great episode recently about if you do get stuck in Baker, there's some things to do.
You can do both things. Sorry, Baker. I don't think Baker cares. So the thing with lithium batteries is they're a newer technology. They're being used more and more. For example, they're used as the batteries in Teslas, electric cars, and also the second crash that happened in August, that was a Tesla electric semi, that crashed and its battery caught fire. So the issue here is that when an incident like this happens, the batteries can go into what's called thermal runaway, and that's when a battery enters an uncontrollable self-heating state, which makes fires extremely difficult to extinguish. So it just keeps getting hot. Listen, there's high temperatures in lithium battery fires. It releases dangerous gas. It can have explosive forces. Hazmat teams have to clean up afterwards. And in a very practical way, it takes a lot of water to put these fires out. Oh. The one that just happened on Tuesday took 5,500 gallons of water to put it out, but the one that happened in California in August took 50,000 gallons to put it out. So there are some major environmental and safety concerns.
Wow.
How disruptive do these fires become then? I mean, you said people got diverted to Baker, and I'm guessing with the heat, the thermometer went really high.
The famous giant thermometer. Yeah, and I'll say with this last one on Tuesday, people were being diverted through Pahrump. So again, people are going way out of their way. The worst one was definitely July, where people were just straight up stuck. So it's honestly not awesome. I can say, that I get to be kind of a data nerd that comes out of my historianness. It is remarkable that there have been 3 major crashes in 3 months. This is an industry that's getting bigger and bigger in our area, lithium battery production and lithium mining as well. Their batteries are considered green, but these incidents are pretty bad. But I haven't looked into the broader data of truck crashes. And I know that sounds a little ridiculous, but we can't just say, ooh, something that sounds bad. We have to see the bigger data set. And I was reminded, this is the last thing I'll say, that when I lived in Cleveland, within the span of a couple years, a raw chicken truck, semi-truck overturned on the highway on 71. And then not that much longer, a live chicken truck overturned on the highway. And that was pretty disruptive, too. Did the chickens burst into flames? Absolutely not.
Is it easier to put out chickens and actually eat them afterwards?
Chicken barbecue.
The dead ones were stinking. It was the summer, and the live ones were running. They're probably still out there with a wild chicken
answering the
population in
age-old question why they crossed the road.
Oh, there we go.
To sort of wander off the truck, honestly, rather than intentionally cross a road. Pete Buttigieg is getting involved, as is Dina Titus. We can talk into that a little bit more in lithium battery regulation, not chickens.
I just want to say one thing that's really interesting is that lithium batteries overheat, and that's what causes them to combust. And this has been the hottest summer on record in Las Vegas. Just putting that out there. This could actually also be a climate change issue.
I mean, they didn't combust while they were riding along in the trucks. They combusted when the trucks slammed into each other. So
Gotcha.
It is specific, or slammed into a telephone pole or a tree, which is what happened in one of the other incidents.
Well, still, I wonder, though, do we need more regulations and accountability when it comes to these lithium battery transport issues? Are these fires that we're seeing a bug or a feature at this point?
Well, I think this is just the beginning of the lithium deluge because as the need for lithium increases with our need for renewable energy in these batteries, with the growth of the solar fields that are happening right now in Nevada, and that new solar energy line that's running up and down the state, I think we're going to see a lot more lithium being mined, transported, and packed into batteries in and around Nevada. So the need for legislation, the need for some kind of regulation around this is going to be huge.
So one of our congresspeople, Dina Titus, introduced the Thermal Runaway Reduction Act. And basically, she wants more impact testing for lithium batteries, which seems really smart. And she wants to see them basically subjected to forces seen during crashes so that they don't combust during these crashes. And also adding regulations which set the maximum state of charge for a lithium-ion battery when it's being transported at 30% so that they're not storing as much energy. Interestingly, Buttigieg not only supports this, but he also brought this up as like a reason that we need more alternatives in transportation like Brightline, which he mentioned specifically. So there's not so many cars on the road. And also so we just have, literally people are stuck because around these highways in Eastern California and here in Nevada, there is nothing. And I don't use that word lightly, but there's nowhere to go if you are trapped in that sort of situation. So it's interesting that also one of the solutions is like, let's give people alternate ways to get somewhere.
Well, is there any follow-up as to who's responsible? I mean, when there's a crash, sometimes it's somebody's fault. Who are the trucking companies involved? Who are the companies who are transporting this stuff? Right now, it seems like the public is paying the costs for these highway shutdowns. And Vegas paid the cost from all these people who didn't get to come here, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that, again, someone should be held accountable? Or is this just the price of doing business? We like lithium in Nevada, so we just have to deal with fires.
Yeah, I don't think explosions should ever be the cost of doing business, but not that I believe that's your personal opinion, David. But, it is interesting. No, as far as I've seen, there hasn't been any direct accountability, at least yet. Keep in mind that the first of these crashes and fires was July. We've got July, August, September. It's not that long. But it is interesting that we're moving it on a federal level to introduce regulation, which I guess that's not even socialism. That's big government. And I do support big government because I think if we held the individuals or the companies privately accountable, that's not going to actually institute change. You need to have it change on a federal or at least a state level so that all companies, all drivers, all transportation services are held to the same standard, not a competing standard. So I'm glad to see this federal legislation coming up so quickly, and I hope that it also is passed quickly, too.
I wish that there was more transparency about this, especially, look, we're trying to position ourselves here in Nevada as the lithium mining / lithium battery capital of the U.S.
Yeah, and SoCal, too. Like, it's really of this area.
Of the world.
Yeah, of the world.
And a cornerstone of the green economy. We should be smarter about it. Or do we just say, look, we're making money, that's enough?
Well, I mean, we've got Dina Titus. She, very quickly proposed this law. So there are people who are handling this. Hopefully, it just needs to work its way through legislation, and these regulations need to be introduced and see what the results are.
TheList.Vegas. It's the free Las Vegas events newsletter created by locals and curated for locals. From food festivals to family events, from burlesque shows to art exhibits, if it's awesome, it's on TheList.Vegas. Every Wednesday, you'll get a list of cool things to do, dining deals, freebies, and other stuff right in your inbox. No algorithmic garbage or AI sludge here. It's 6 human curators handpicking cool events every week. TheList.Vegas was founded by Andrew Corrali. He's a native Las Vegan, longtime local journalist, and, well, he's very popular. The sportos, the motorheads, the geeks, and me, we all adore him. We think he's a righteous dude, and he's a CityCast contributor to boot. TheList.Vegas is a fun read for anyone interested in our city, and it's the best place to discover the coolest things to do in Las Vegas.
Introducing our biggest GMC Acadia ever. Offering bigger screens, bigger views, and even bigger journeys. Live your biggest life in the all-new GMC Acadia.
All right. Changing gears in a safe way on the highway of discussion. Local journalist Steve Sebelius interviewed Donald Trump after he gave a speech here in southern Nevada earlier this week. Sonia, how did our friend Steve Sebelius do?
He's our boy.
He is our boy.
He's our boy.
He's been on the pod numerous times.
Sebelius the Rebellious.
Sebelius the Rebellious. We love Steve Sebelius. He's amazing. And he obviously was incredible. He managed to snag Trump for about 12, almost 13 minutes of interview.
Amazing.
He interviewed Trump at the Trump Hotel this weekend and mainly focused on two major issues. The first was the economy, and the second, I think I would probably slot it under electability. So with the economy, he asked Trump about what issues would actually affect local Las Vegans, and predictably, Trump talked about, guess which topic?
Tax on tips.
That's right. No taxes on tips.
Oh, I was going to guess his crowd size.
Surprisingly, the crowd size did not come up. But yes, Trump's proposal to not tax tips did come up. But also another fun bonus was no taxes on overtime, which is another new tax proposal that he threw out very recently last week in Tucson at a campaign rally in Tucson. I was kind of blindsided by that proposal, so I looked it up, and the New York Times has a great article about it and calls it part of the Trump playbook this year, which is where he tosses out these potentially huge tax cuts, but leaves things very lean on the details. And these huge tax cuts could, of course, have some major budget implications. The other major economic issue that Trump pushed was tariffs, one of his favorite words. In fact,
in the discussion with Sebelius?
In the discussion with Sebelius, yes. In fact, Trump even says, tariffs, to me, it's the most beautiful word there is.
Our buddy Sebelius pushed back, though, did he not?
He did. And so Sebelius asked Trump whether or not tariffs would undercut the gains that people receive from tax cuts, because a lot of economists say that tariffs will help raise prices. But Trump, his response is that we're going to drill, baby, drill, and bring a lot of manufacturing and industry back to this country, and therefore refill the American coffers. Interesting. Second issue that did come up towards the end, economy was the bulk of the conversation, but we did see Trump's personality finally come out here a little bit. He was pretty measured and calm for the first part, but then we got to see a little Trump spice come through, was when Sebelius asked him about Republicans for Harris. And Trump actually took this time to push back and say, well, actually, there are Democrats for Trump as well, touting some of his accomplishments in his last tenure as president. He also took the time to bash Liz Cheney, a noted anti-Trump Republican, and then threw out a seemingly random reference to a pardon he gave to Scooter Libby. I don't know if you guys remember who Scooter Libby was?
Dick Cheney? He was the former chief aide to Vice President Dick Cheney, and I do believe he got into trouble, was convicted of obstructing justice and lying to investigators in leaking a CIA operative's identity back in 2007. That's Scooter Libby.
Yeah. So I was like, this feels like a non sequitur, right? And then I remembered that Dick Cheney recently endorsed Kamala Harris. Yeah. And so all these digs at the Cheneys, I think, are coming from this place of Trump saying, hey, look, there are Republicans for Harris, but you know what? They're not all legit. And there are Democrats for Trump, too.
Interesting. I also noticed that he was like, all those Republicans for Trump, they don't like how tough I was on China. Which, yeah, I'm not. China. I don't know how tough he was on China or not, or that that's on their mind. But this video of Steve Sebelius interviewing the former president has gone viral. And not just because Steve is the one journalist who makes Donald Trump look small, like physically, because, Steve is a big dude.
He's tall. Yeah, Steve is really tall.
Yeah, but mostly because he is one of the few journalists that I've seen in any of these clips who, when they do get these opportunities with the candidate, really push back. And here he gave a specific example of tariffs not being exactly what Trump is purporting them to be. So that was really cool. Let me ask you guys, having listened to that 12-minute interview, do you think that there's any missed opportunity or an issue that he didn't bring up that he maybe should have?
I could say, I just sat here to do a little fact-checking of Democrats for Trump. 2 Democrats have endorsed Trump.
Tulsi Gabbard.
And RFK Jr., who also, by the way, did you see that 10 years ago he cut the head off a whale?
Stop it.
See that.
No more animal weirdness with this guy.
his minivan, the family minivan.
His
kids were in the
I saw
car.
that. And they talk about whale juices in that story.
no.
Every time they
Oh,
hit the
no.
brakes.
Yeah.
I was so over it.
Absolutely bananas. So there are two. That is accurate. There are over 100 Republicans who have endorsed Harris. And as far as organizing bodies, there are Republicans for Harris, but I did not, interestingly, see any Democrats for Trump. So, little tiny fact check. I don't want Trump to talk about Springfield, Ohio more, but if I'm going to put my culinary historian boots on for just a minute, saying that immigrants are eating pets is like out of the fascist playbook of the 19th century. These are my personal opinions, but it's also fact-based. We used to say, we as a country, people who were conservative and anti-immigrant, used to say that Chinese Americans both ate cats and rats and fed them to other people. It's a really old tactic to create hatred for to other a group, and to elicit fear. And as a result of that, there have been threats of violence against Springfield, Ohio. I don't want him to talk about that more, but he's also not taking that statement back, and he's not denouncing the bomb threats that have come into Ohio. He's just creating chaos and violence in this way that is personally upsetting to me.
I think for me, the issue that I would have loved to hear more about is housing. I think economy obviously is a huge one. It's tied into housing and the ability to afford housing. But at least for my generation, millennials, it's crushing us. I mean, I think...
Well, especially since in the speech that he had made in Nevada, candidate Donald Trump talked about opening up all these BLM lands and went farther than any local politician has on this topic, and basically said, we want to build beautiful new communities throughout the basically throughout the desert.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, and he also wants to put all the film studios there and new manufacturing plants and essentially create, I guess, I don't know, Pahrump Senior or Las Vegas Juniors all over the state. I wasn't really sure where he was going, and I would have loved to hear Sebelius follow up on exactly what his plans for the middle of our desert was.
So in that interview, Sonia, he didn't hit on housing at all?
He did not, no. But I also just want to say, I mean, to be fair, this is all wishful thinking, right? If Sebelius had more time. Yes, he did not get a lot. The fact that he actually got 12 minutes was itself a feat. So, this is the nice to have portion of the speculation.
Well, and not to continue to pile laudatory comments on Steve Sebelius, but he is a reasonable, intelligent person who instills that. When he interviews people, I think that whoever the interviewee is, on whatever part of the political spectrum they fall, they trust him. They don't think he's out there to get them, or that he is a partisan person in media, but that he is a legitimate person. So I think that getting that amount of time, which seems fairly unprecedented for just kind of a spot interview, is something. So I'm not going to second guess Steve, but I would have loved a litany of Vegas-specific questions to come.
Yeah.
Steve was doing his job the best that he could do. One of my biggest issues is that when you hear a legislator speak, especially if it's for 12 minutes and they only have 12 minutes to make an impact, I want to hear things that are tactile, that are real. I want to hear a plan reference that I can look at and say, well, how is this going to change my life and the life of my neighbors for the better, whether it comes to housing, whether it comes to the economy, whether it comes to immigration law.
So let me interrupt you, Sarah. Are you saying that the 12-minute interview that Steve Sebelius did with Trump, you weren't impressed with any takeaways from this interview as it comes to the candidate?
What takeaways were there? And that's how I feel about basically anytime Trump talks, because the only solid things he says are things that elicit fear or anger, as opposed to when I hear a legislature speak to me for my vote, I want them to talk about tactile things that are going to make my life and my neighbors' lives better. And I'm not getting that from the Trump campaign.
Well, Sonia, what were your takeaways from the Steve Sebelius interview?
I thought it was interesting the way that Trump continues to position himself as an anti-establishment candidate. Especially in that second portion when Sebelius was asking him about the Republicans for Harris. I think that's why he was aligning himself against against Cheney. Why he brought up Scooter Libby. Why he talked about Democrats for Trump.
It's all his personal, it's about him, right? It's his personally offended.
Yeah. Clearly, I mean, he was obviously going on a little bit of a revenge tangent there too against Liz Cheney. But, I think it actually made me feel like I think he really sees himself as an outside anti-establishment character. And it's a deeply held belief.
Do you think he really believes that in his heart?
Sure, drain the swamp.
Who knows?
But there's a difference between saying something to appeal and actually believing it. And I think that I don't think he's dumb. I think he's smart enough to say things that will appeal to what I feel is almost like a cult following. And that he knows what to say, but I don't know if he really believes his own persona in that way.
Interesting. Well, my takeaway, because I know you both want to know, was less about Trump and more about Steve Sebelius. And that is that Steve can handle himself on a national level. And I think that if there is a national debate and they're looking for moderators, I think Steve Sebelius would be an excellent choice. So, a little more fawning over our friend Steve Sebelius. But I think he did a really good job with the limited time that he had to get to what he could. I would love to see a 30-minute interview or an hour-long interview with Steve Sebelius and either of the presidential candidates.
Hometown pride right now. Seriously.
Steve Sebelius fan club starts right here, right now.
All right, I'm going to go make stickers.
Hey, it's me, the Quenchies. I'm that late afternoon craving you just can't shake. Wait, what's that? Welch's Grape Aid? No! Made with real fruit and no added sugar, nothing answers the call of the Quenchies like Grape Aid. Got the Quenchies? Grab a Grape Aid in your juice aisle.
This episode is brought to you by Buffalo Trace Distillery. Powerful yet smooth. Contained but never tame. Proudly going their own way, but never going alone. This is the spirit inside Buffalo Trace Bourbon. Made at Buffalo Trace Distillery, the world's most award-winning distillery. Buffalo Trace is always perfectly untamed. Distilled, aged, and bottled by Buffalo Trace Distillery, Franklin County, Kentucky. 90 proof, 45% alcohol by volume. Learn more at buffalotracedistillery.com. Please drink responsibly.
Okay, so our last topic, the fun one. Wallet Hub asked a bunch of statisticians.
Noted Research Institute Wallet Hub.
Wallet Hub came out with a list of the top 20 best coffee cities in the United States with no coffee experts on their panel, I'm just going to say right now. So Las Vegas did not make the top 10, did not make the top 15, and came in at an anemic 20, a decaffeinated 20. I guess the only good thing about that, just for a little hometown pride, is that Reno, Nevada, clocked in at 36.
Yay!
It's so funny because it's always Las Vegas. It's like as Las Vegas gets ranked, it doesn't matter where we get ranked as long as we get ranked better than Reno sometimes.
Yeah.
Although
I
that's
feel
our
that.
little thing. I don't know
Our
that a lot of
sibling.
people. Yeah, they're our sibling.
Yeah.
That would have been embarrassing if they were better than us. But I looked at the stats. I looked at the crosstabs because I'm both, a coffee snob and a stat
nerd?
dork. Right.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really love the criteria. It was, sure, coffee shops per capita, but it was also like how much a cup of coffee costs, how many people have home coffee makers.
And expensive was better. Like if the coffee was really expensive, they determined that
I
was
think
better
that was,
coffee
because
somehow.
Lubbock, Texas popped up as the most expensive place to get coffee. So that was like factored in.
That's a good thing? That bumps your ranking up?
I couldn't really tell. So number 1 was Portland, which totally makes sense. Northwest.
Okay,
San Francisco, number 2. Seattle, number 3. Hawaii, number 4. And then a bunch from Florida.
They literally grow the coffee in Hawaii.
Yeah.
That's well, even more reason that they should probably be like a number 1. Like Kona coffee is from Kona.
Yeah, no, they
know?
definitely, it's right there. But I don't know. Again, without having coffee experts, like people who really are like, how are the flavors of coffee in Las Vegas? Are they being innovative or not? But why don't we do this? First off, screw you, Wallet Hub. Coffee here is awesome, and the people who are in the coffee industry are excellent people.
Listen, I've had to work at places like Wallet Hub, and someone got paid $50 to write that post. So, like,
I get ya.
It's
Fair.
not on you.
Yeah.
poor freelance journalist who wrote that. Are they doing the studies themselves, or are they just writing about the studies, is my question.
Oh, so they have a panel of quote-unquote experts who all have PhDs who are looking at data from the census and from Yelp and from Amazon and stuff like that, like searches.
So look, these are marketing tools for Wallet Hub, right? They put together these quote-unquote studies that then get farmed out or pitched out to like media outlets like us who take the bait.
We take the bait.
We take the
We're not
bait
the
and we
only
talk
ones in
about it.
Vegas, but we
Not
have in
sponsored by
fact
Wallet
taken
Hub.
the bait. So no bad feelings to other media outlets who have taken the bait. We're all in it.
Also, successful tactic, clearly.
Clearly, because people are going to hit links. But I want to talk about the greatness of coffee in our community.
So
first off, everyone shout out your favorite Vegas coffee experience and tell us a little about why that is.
Oh, I'm a Vesta coffee drinker. I think they've got the best roast. They've got
They roast it right in-house. We see it.
Right in-house. David, last time you and I were there, we were both sweating buckets because it was like 110
outside. Got a little warm
outside.
in the roasting room.
I love that you're like, this is a plus. This is what makes this great.
It was the sauna experience, but I think that they have a solid coffee menu. They get the classics down right. I've had excellent cappuccinos there. They do great work with non-dairy milks, which I also love. They have a good pastry selection.
They make their own macadamia, or at least they used to.
Oh, they do. Oh my gosh, they have that blend, that really delicious blend, right? And then they have beautiful like sunlit spaces that are excellent for both socializing and working.
How about you, Sarah? What's your favorite coffee experience in town?
I mean, I don't do favorites, David, because it's like, what am I into in the moment? What kind of experience am I looking for? But I will
Sure. So
say,
what's your favorite Beatles song right now? And what's your favorite coffee right now?
Currently, it's that one that's like, I remember. What's that
Oh,
one?
I like that.
In My Life.
In My Life.
In My
Good one.
Life.
Good
Yeah,
choice.
that is my current favorite Beatles song. The two coffee spots that coffee change will see me at the most is the coffee class out here in Henderson.
Oh, yeah.
They've got 3 locations now. Their food is really excellent. I will say that if you're going also for like lunch or brunch, it does get a little pricey than your like normal cup of coffee and a pastry. But the pastries,
their Pop-Tart is really good.
The pastries are out of control.
I have noticed a lot of
good.
other coffee shops have taken up the Pop-Tart trend, but Coffee Class is the first place I ever saw homemade Pop-Tarts, which is interesting.
And Vesta stepped up its pastry game and especially its croissant game because any flaky pastry at Coffee Class is so good. But they also do like real meals there. The coffee is amazing. The people are always so nice. It's really great. Second is Mothership, depending what part of town I'm in. If I'm on Fremont Street, I'm definitely going to go, and you do as well, David, but please don't stalk us, to the Mothership that's in Ferguson's, because that is, especially I think in the afternoons, it's open later than some of the other coffee shops. It's a good place to hang. Mothership
I'm a
has
big
great
fan
cold
of the
brew.
Mothership over in your neck of the woods, over on Green Valley
St. Rose.
Parkway.
Oh, Green Valley. Oh, the one next
Sunset.
to the Trader Joe's.
I haven't been
the
there.
tiny one.
It's a little one, but there's always a spot to sit. There's a nice counter. It's still a good laptop working space. But then, of course, there's the one that's also on St. Rose that is like a really pretty big space with a nice outdoor patio, too.
Yeah.
And then just one more that I got to shout out, because speaking of Kona Coffee, there is a really great Kona Coffee place here called Badass. It's a
I've seen their kiosk.
Yeah.
They have a drive-through.
Exactly. So that's a drive-through situation when I'm in the Northwest, but they're like that.
There's one on
Kona
Charleston,
Coffee hits.
too.
Oh, is there? Okay, well, they're expanding. And you can get like a Spam, egg, and cheese like breakfast sandwich. Oh, delish. So good. So those are my fave spots.
And I, am always going to hedge because I go to 6 or 7 different coffee places every day of my life.
have your circuit.
We could
Famously.
re-release that roundup before I started working here, and you wrote that like you had like 6 coffees in one day and wrote it for the newsletter.
Yeah.
I was shocked, but
I'm
also
still
took notes.
wired on that day.
Yeah.
I have not yet calmed down from it. I actually made a list of all the downtown coffee shops in June, and I've pinned it on my X profile. So if you go to Oi Vegas, which is my handle on X, you could see from June. But there have been new coffee shops downtown that have been added since then.
Yeah.
Coffee Religion put a second location downtown.
Yeah.
But so if I have to pick my favorite coffee experience, I'm going to, of course, agree with both of you. But I also want to give shout outs to places like Bungalow Coffee.
Oh, Bungalow's so good.
Downtown, which is a lot of fun and also kind of a hot spot where people meet. And I also want to give a little bit of a hat tip to the original post-Starbuckian coffee elevators, Samba Latte. out in Boca Park, and Publicus downtown over on Maryland, because both of them brought the coffee game to a new level in Las Vegas, and it's just been growing. It's hard to keep up with all the new coffee spots that open up, which is why I think we should indeed rank a little higher than 20th.
I'm also a big fan of the Human Being, which I know is a national chain as well, but like great drive-through coffee was really new to me when I moved out west. I appreciate our drive-through culture so much. And like, I love their cold brew. And like, I just love that they're also here locally too.
Well, Sarah and Sonia, thank you so much for joining us on the Friday News Roundup.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
And Sonia, I just want to give a little special thank you, because you're going to be going on maternity leave for a few months, and we're not going to have you on the Roundup. You're going to be taking a little pause from the team, and we're going to miss you so much.
Yeah, until the new year.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
yes,
good luck, Sonia.
I will be out for the rest of the year, back in January, but taking a much-needed break to, have a baby.
Well, thanks so much, and good luck, and congratulations, Sonia. We're all really happy for you.
Thanks, y'all. I'll miss you, but we'll see you again soon.
It'll go by quick. We'll still be here.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our producers this week were Sonia Cho Swanson, Layla Muhammad, Lizzie Goldsmith, and Francisco Kilgore. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katcheries, and our hosts are Sarah Lohman and me, David Figler. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We record the show on the traditional homelands of the Nuuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed the show, please go tell a friend. That's how shows like ours go viral. You can also rate our show wherever you listen to it, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky. So do we have a name yet? Because I am suggesting City Cassie as a name. Or, I think the dark horse here is Davida with a Y.
Yes, this will all be taken under advisement. Yes.
You could always call her Sarah if you don't want to think too hard.
Or Sarah Jr.
A very normal name. I do like Sarah Jr.
I like Sarah Jr. as a name.